Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Comic Source, Comic Boom collaboration. As you can see, I'm not in my normal recording spots. I'm in a rental car driving from Los Angeles, LAX International Airport, to Phoenix Airport because American Airlines can't get their act together. So we didn't want to miss out on dropping the DC spotlight for you guys. Interest of full disclosure, I was so busy this weekend I didn't get a chance to read the books. I was planning on reading them on the plane today when I flew from Charlotte to Phoenix, but I never flew from Charlotte to Phoenix. Instead, I flew from Charlotte to LAX. I was supposed to double back to Phoenix, which is only one tiny hiccup in this horror show of travel that I've undergone this weekend. So the Wi-Fi on the about them. I'm going to comment and ask questions, and we'll still give you guys your massive dose of DC. We're going to do a separate podcast that talks all about the success of the auction, and in that separate podcast, I'm going to tell you guys the story blow by blow. And honestly, I feel like my ordeal puts planes, trains, and automobiles to shame. Because if planes, trains, and automobiles had tried to put in the number of things that went wrong for me with American Airlines and everything else, nobody would believe it. They'd be like, no, you can't just put like one bad thing after another bad thing after another bad thing and absolutely nothing goes right. That's not real life. Tell you what, it was my real life this last weekend.
Man.
24 hours it took me to go from Phoenix to actually get to Hartford. And I ended up having to rent a car to go the last leg from Philly to Hartford. And then American Airlines wanted to take 36 hours to get me home when I was supposed to be home in, 10-1. I was supposed to be home in 6 hours. They wanted to take 36 hours. So again, I rented a car, taking matters into my own hands. But yeah, overall, it was a good weekend. We raised a lot of money for Titus, and there's still more to come with that. So all that being said, I apologize if the sound quality is not great or if I drop out randomly because I'm hitting a no Wi-Fi zone. But Rocky's gotcha.
Yeah,
so with that, I'll let you take it away, Rock.
All right. Well, no problem. We'll figure it out. And again, a shout out to you, Jason, at Terrificon. I know that you were there down there for that auction, raising money for Titus, his fight against cancer. I'm glad to hear that went well. You're definitely taking one for many a team, making a sacrifice, handling that auction, enjoying the Terrificon. I'm still jealous of you, despite all the aggravation that you're going through there. But it was for a great cause, man. It's good to see that you're doing that. But
yeah, I said with all the stress and everything before the trip that I didn't know if it was going to all be worth it. But even with all this stress, I'd do it again.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good to hear. And well, diving right into it here in terms of what we have for comics, this is another semi-big week for DC. I mean, we got there's basically 13 different titles. We got Batman, we got Batman 111, we got Green Lantern #5, Suicide Squad issue 6, Swamp Thing 6 of 10, the 3rd issue of Crush and Lobo. We have Justice League 66, Crime Syndicate, the final issue of Crime Syndicate, and the Suicide Squad Get Joker #1 by Brian Azarello. There's also some other comics we likely won't be reviewing, but we might say a quick word about Justice League Infinity issue 2, The Conjuring, The Lover issue 3, American Vampire 1976, and The Dreaming, Sandman the Dreaming issue, the final issue of that issue 12. So, starting off, we are going to review Swamp Thing #6. And, this is, of course, written by Ram V with great art by Mike Perkins. There's a couple of standouts here. This actually overlaps with Suicide Squad. This month's issue of Suicide Squad issue 6, because while Amanda Waller is dealing with sending Connor Kent and Superboy to Earth 3 to rescue Bloodsport, she also has Peacemaker going to essentially going to try to apprehend Swamp Thing, and that adventure takes place here in Swamp Thing issue 6, and that is that's quite the thing. So what happens here is Amanda Waller. It's established here that Amanda Waller is sending Peacemaker along with a bunch of sort of B and C listers to basically retrieve Swamp Thing, because the last issue of Swamp Thing, we at the final issues of issue 5, Swamp Thing essentially noticed that something was wrong. The Green was crying out, and that was because Amanda Waller had Peacemaker set off a bomb to infect all the plants around in order to get the Swamp Thing's attention, and that was in India. And something feels very wrong in India here because they want to attract Swamp Thing. And Peacemaker has Heatwave with him. He's got a new character, Nightmare Nurse, along with Chemo and the Parasite. So a really eclectic group of villains, very interesting group of villains. And it actually becomes quite clear that Amanda Waller just wants to get rid of Peacemaker. She wants him off the scene because we find out that, in fact, she wants Peacemaker off the scene because she thinks that Peacemaker helped Colonel Flagg escape from Bellerive Prison. And so she wants to get Peacemaker off the scene so she can just deal with Superboy and rescue Bloodsport from Earth 3. But now, here in the pages of Swamp Thing, this issue here is just that this involves, not a heck of a lot happens here. This just involves this group of suicide squatters, I guess. They try in vain to try to capture Swamp Thing, and they don't do a particularly great job. The characterization is really good. The best thing, this feels like a Suicide Squad issue, and I think in that respect, I think many people might enjoy it, Jace, because I know that some people have Swamp Thing hasn't been their cup of tea. Ram V has done a really good job here of really nailing the characterizations and making Heatwave interesting, Nightmare Nurse is interesting, even the Parasite. The Parasite seems to be feeding off the Green in some way, and I suspect that the Green might be infecting Parasite, which is kind of ironic because usually it's the Parasite that infects or sort of absorbs energy. But in any event, it's very interesting. And Chemo here, I don't know how on earth leave it to Amanda Waller to figure out a way to control Chemo of all creatures. But what's great here is we know that Levi Kame, who is the Swamp Thing, we know that he became Swamp Thing. He established a connection to the Green in issue 1. He referenced his father dying, and he referenced something that happened when he was in India involving ultimately the death involving his brother. And this as Levi is healing from some injuries in previous issues, the Green is restoring his memory, because as the power of the Green is in memory is what Alec Holland told Levi, that the power of the Green is in memory. And so the Green is restoring Levi's memory. And by doing so, that's how writer Ram V gives us the flashback into Levi's life. And there's a flashback of him talking with his brother and his father in India. And we're sort of getting that flashback as to what happened to turn Levi into the Swamp Thing. What established his connection? And that is interspersed with a lot of great action sequences with Heatwave attacking Swamp Thing with fire, and Swamp Thing reacting, jumping into a lake. Meanwhile, Nightmare Nurse and the Peacemaker, they're frustrated because Heatwave is a criminal. He wants to do things on his own. He's not interested in apprehending Swamp Thing alive. He wants to kill the Swamp Thing. Amanda Waller, of course, gives him the option, only kill as a last resort. Well, Heatwave is kind of a jerk. You know, he's going to use lethal force if he can. He likes to watch things burn. And incidentally, I'm not sure if this is the same heat wave that we see in the pages of Flash that we know is dying of cancer. So I'm not sure if this is the same heat wave or I'm not. But in any event, it's kind of interesting there. But this was an interesting issue overall. I thought it played really well. It's perfectly synchronized with Suicide Squad issue 6 that we'll also be reviewing this week. It's really great. This pushes Peacemaker off the field. It gets him into India, away from Amanda Waller, allowing Amanda Waller to play her games and send the crew to Earth 3 to rescue Bloodsport. And I thought this worked really well. And a great flashback sequences with Levi in India with his father. Beautiful art by Mike Perkins here. Really great scenes between Levi and his brother Jacob. Really popped off the page. Coloring was excellent. I gotta say, it's very impressive, and I would encourage people who weren't really into Swamp Thing. I think they might really enjoy this issue most of all because we get so much action in it, and we got the Suicide Squad, and it ends with a cliffhanger with Heatwave thinking that he's safe, and of course Swamp Thing is about to attack Heatwave, and that's how this issue ends. So while not a lot of substance happens, it's clear that we're starting to get some flashbacks as to Levi's past. So overall, I thought it was pretty decent.
Yeah, I don't know if this is one I would have necessarily read. I keep saying I'm going to back off of Suicide Squad, and then Swamp Thing rather, and then I keep reading it. Who did you say was off on their own?
Well, Amanda Connor sent Peacemaker and this crew to India to retrieve Swamp Thing, but Amanda Waller in the pages of Suicide Squad 6 this week, she sends Connor, / Superboy and the rest, the other crew of she sends them to Earth 3 to rescue Bloodsport. So Nocturna and Connor Kent, they're off in Earth 3 trying to rescue Bloodsport, and they're successful in doing that. And it's very interesting that Amanda Connor's playing so many. She's got her hands in so much right now. It's ridiculous because, in fact, that's one of the things that we should jump into. We'll review that next. Right now, in fact, I'll hop to that right now because with Suicide Squad number 6, writer Robbie Thompson, man, he does a great job. I know Amanda Waller isn't your favorite character, Chase, but it's established in Suicide Squad 6 that Amanda Waller has a savior complex. She actually is looking to save something. She wants to save Earth 3. And we knew that from Future State. We knew that she wanted to save Future State, and she establishes Connor Kent as the Superman of Earth 3. And she actually does, the beginnings of that plan begins in Suicide Squad number 6. And part of that plan involved getting Peacemaker away from her. And so that's why she sent Peacemaker to India to get him off the playing field so she could just focus on Superboy, because Amanda Waller does not trust Peacemaker. She thinks that Peacemaker orchestrated Colonel Flagg's escape in issue 4 of Suicide Squad, and she doesn't trust him, but she still wants to keep him because he's a good soldier. She still wants to keep him around. But I got to tell you, it's quite interesting here. I just want to bring up some of the pages for those watching.
Well, I think it's no surprise that Suicide Squad is everywhere right now. And the movie comes out this Friday. So it is no surprise. I mean, I said earlier, I keep saying I'm going to skip Swamp Thing, but I 100% would have wanted to see Ram Villa write the Suicide Squad. So I probably will actually read that Swamp Thing issue. But you're right. Amanda Waller has her hands in many pies.
Yeah, and I gotta say, I told my retailer I'm actually getting all the Suicide Squad variants this month, and there's a lot of them. But I love, most of them are really good. Some of them, again, There's a couple of not so great ones, but I would say most of them are pretty damn good. And I'm showing the movie cover for Suicide Squad. For Suicide Squad 6, the movie cover is pretty good. It shows Bloodsport on the cover. Really good stuff. And then the cover B has some a Riley Rosmo cover of Peacemaker, which is actually surprisingly good. It shows Peacemaker's helmet with Colonel Flag, oddly enough, in the reflection, which I find kind of interesting. Actually, Riley Rosmo has the Suicide Squad movie picture. But in any event, Suicide Squad 6 here, man. This, I got to tell you, I'm actually enjoying Earth 3. I'm loving Ultraman as much here as I am when Andy Schmidt writes him in the final issue of Crime Syndicate that we're also reviewing this week. And because this starts off, because Amanda Waller, Bloodsport needs their help. Remember, like last week, or the last issue, Amanda Waller, sends Bloodsport some kryptonite. And I don't know if she knew this, but kryptonite empowers Ultraman. So Ultraman wants to use Bloodsport to find more kryptonite. And it's quite clear that Amanda Waller is preparing for a fight. So she's sending Talon, Night Terror as another member of the team, Connor Kent, and Chuko, or I always forget her name there, that big hulking character you like so much. Your favorite character on Suicide Squad, what is that? That big woman. Do you know what I'm talking about, Jace?
Yeah, I know who you're talking about, but I can never remember her name either. It's like Kabula, Canubra,
Yeah,
Cabela.
Culebra. Yeah, that's what it is. Culebra, right? Culebra and Nocturna and Connor. Anyways, they're all sent to Earth 3, and they've only got an hour on Earth 3 to rescue Bloodsport. And it's interesting that the one thing that doesn't quite work in this issue, or it works, but Amanda Waller is so contradictory. She threatens Connor Kent. She threatens Connor, saying, you better do what I say or I'm going to kill you. You'll do what it takes, Superboy, or you will die. And then, but yet at the end of the issue, when Connor has essentially rescued everyone through a portal to get them off Earth 3, and he's left fighting Ultraman all by himself, he's about to be defeated. And and one of the assistants tells Amanda Waller, you have to speak, you have to talk past, you got to boost Superboy up. Don't talk down to him. Don't threaten him. He's not like the others. You got to talk, and so she tells him that it's not in your nature to kill. So Amanda Waller does a complete 180 she threatens Connor's life at the beginning of the issue, and then completely tells him that he's better than anyone and he's not a killer and he should be who he really is at the end of it. And that inspires him to knock Ultraman out of the way, and essentially they all escape Earth 3, knowing full well that they're going to have a battle against the Crime Syndicate at some future point, and we know ultimately defeat the Crime Syndicate because we know that's what happened in Future State, and it seems fairly certain that that's likely going to happen, even though that's a future not written in stone. We also know that Nocturna confesses to Connor Kent, confesses to Superboy that she meddled with his mind and that she's not sure what's in Superboy's mind. His memory is all over the place. She can't make heads or tails in terms of Connor Kent's memory. Ultraman also makes some comments. Ultraman takes one look at Connor Kent and says, "You're nothing but a clone of a clone of a clone. You're basically a fake. You're not real." And there's fantastic action sequences here. I love how this played out. Ultraman ends up killing one of the members of the Suicide Squad, and I can't remember. I don't know who it is. It's one of the plant. It almost looks like one of the a wooden plant creature of some kind. He ends up killing and frying, and clearly Ultraman would have killed more. Fortunately, Amanda Waller has the Black Siren, which is Earth 3's Black Canary, help out to disable and to impair Ultraman with ultrasonic sounds. But But great action sequences here, great art. Bloodsport is great, Nocturna is great. They all managed to escape. Superboy rises to the occasion. I got to tell you, man, I prefer this Superboy to John Kent. I would pick Connor Kent over John Kent any day of the week. I like this Connor Kent. He's kick-ass. But, one of the things I'm wondering, Jason, you tell me this. I don't know if I want Connor Kent to be the Superman of Earth 3. I don't know how I feel about that. What about you?
Yeah, I sort of like the idea, actually. I haven't thought about it too much, but, part of the reason I liked Earth 3 so much is, and we talked about this when Andy was on the show, was the fact there wasn't a lot of gray area there, right? Alexander Luthor was the non-powered, and the Crime Syndicate obviously were the very powerful beings who kind of ruled the planet. And I think actually his name was Alexander Luthor. He's went by his given name, rather than shorten it to Lex. But he was like the world's smartest person. That part was the same, just like it is in the regular DCU. And he was able to build a bunch of technology, armor, and jetpack and whatever, and fight the Crime Syndicate. So, as evil as our Lex was, the other side of his coin was Alexander Luthor from Earth 3. And he was unwavering in his heroism. And that's something that you can say the same about Con-El. He's unwavering in his heroism.
Yeah.
Despite being of a clone, half Lex Luthor DNA, half Superman DNA, formative years behind bars, and then been doing other stuff for the last little while.
Amanda Waller really does try to inspire Connor. She says, "You don't kill, not for me, not for anyone," she says, because that's not who you are. You're Superboy, goddammit. That's an exact quote. So Amanda Waller, she's really flip-flopping here. And she did the same thing in Future State, which I thought was, a little bit out of character, because we're not really used to Amanda Waller being so bloody heroic. So, but it's interesting here because Amanda Waller makes a comment to another Colonel Parker, who is another colonel in this issue, where she says to him, "You have no idea what it takes to do my job. Maybe one day you'll do my job, but you have no idea the decisions I have to make." So I think that there's an attempt here by writer Robbie Thompson to really delve into the character of Amanda Waller a bit and maybe attempt to show some of her emotion and her angst and her difficulties that she has with respect to the decision making that she's always making. But all in all, it's interesting. I think this is a great week. I would recommend to everyone to buy Swamp Thing number 6, Suicide Squad number 6, and also Crime Syndicate number 6, because it's I think these are a trifecta of entertainment. Swamp Thing and Suicide Squad issue 6s are definitely linked, and Crime Syndicate, of course, ends that series. But it's a really good primer because you got a lot of great Suicide Squad, Crime Syndicate love, and some Swamp Thing thrown in, no question.
Yeah, I'm going to be curious when I get a chance to read it. I sort of feel like there's only good things to come for Amanda Waller in terms of she can't be really much worse of a character than she is now. So they don't seem to want to get rid of her. So yeah, I guess we'll see. I'm all for a more personal origin as opposed to the really tropey origin that Ostrander did for us in the Suicide Squad.
I should say that the Earth at the end of Suicide Squad number 6, it makes clear that it continues in the Suicide Squad Annual 2021, and there's another clone of Superboy that shows up at the end of Suicide Squad number 6, which is interesting. So, and they're in a bunker. They end up in a bunker in Russia. I don't believe they're on Earth 3 anymore. They leave Earth 3 and they end up in a Russian bunker somewhere. But another clone of Connor Kent is there. So I think we're finally going to get some answers as to what the heck is going on with Connor Kent. How many clones of Connor Kent are there? So it's going to be interesting to see. And I got to tell you, man, I'm so looking forward. I hope Robbie Thompson writes the battle between the inevitable battle between Crime Syndicate and the Suicide Squad. I can't wait to see that. I hope to see that. We've only been given bits and pieces of that in Future State. We never saw how the Crime Syndicate was defeated, but hopefully we're going to be able to see that in the pages of Suicide Squad.
Yeah, I guess we'll see.
But, all right. So, I guess the next one we can review is... I almost feel bad reviewing Crime Syndicate number 6 because just to remind people, Jace was kind enough to allow me to partner with him to interview Andy Schmidt on the first 5 issues of Crime Syndicate. And we really, Jace, I'm sure you'll agree, we definitely picked Andy Schmidt's brain on all things Crime Syndicate. And I got to tell you, man, I wish you'd have read this issue, because I'm a little bit surprised by it. I don't, it kind of ends. It surprised me. It surprised me, and I was a little bit thrown by the characterization of Emerald Knight, because Emerald Knight, Jace, I think you and I, it was an easy prediction that Emerald Knight would essentially, I guess, betray the team, so to speak, or betraying the Legion of Justice. And, and this issue consists primarily of a battle between Kara, Supergirl, and Ultraman. And Ultraman, he's basically asking, where were you, Ultra Girl? All these years, I've been so alone. I thought I was the only one. And Ultraman, he's so happy that that there's another person out there just like him. But Kara, this Earth 3 Super Ultra Girl, absolutely hates him. She says that when she came to Earth, she couldn't believe how perverted he was and how evil he was and what he became, and so she's sickened by him. And meanwhile, we got this Emerald Knight. He actually defeats Donna Troy, Superwoman, but unfortunately, they end up landing on Demon Island, not Paradise Island. It's on Earth 3. It's called Demon Island, and Emerald Knight has to battle all these, I guess, Amazons on Earth 3. And it ends up that the Emerald Knight, he's taunted by them, and he actually kills a whole slew of Amazons. Meanwhile, Ultra Girl is battling Ultraman, and Atomica shrinks down really low, and it's actually really tragic in this issue, because Atomica, I don't know how I feel about it. Atomica shrinks so low, and she ends up going into Kara's brain and ends up killing Ultra Girl by moving something in her brain, and it's really tragic. And what's even odd about that is, on the flip side, we have Emerald Knight betraying Sinestro and basically shooting a beam through Sinestro and essentially, I believe, killing him. But I'm not sure why I don't really understand why I don't understand why the Emerald Knight betrayed him. It's really weird, Jace, because the Emerald Knight, he ends up apparently the ring was influencing him, and Donna Troy is trying to tell Emerald Knight. Donna Troy is trying to talk the Emerald Knight into into converting and changing sides. But Sinestro tells the Emerald Knight, tells him, "Don't listen to her, John. You're a victim of the ring. I shouldn't have allowed it it was my mistake. But we're going to start you back on the path to recovery. I will walk with you as your brother. So, and Emerald Knight says, thank you, Thal. Thank you, Sinestro, but I don't need your pity. And then he kills him. And Emerald Knight says that once the voice was gone, there was clarity. So the moment that there was no voice of the ring in his head, he became more evil. It's the oddest thing. I thought, I don't understand it. I really wish you'd have read it, so maybe I'm missing something. But I wish Andy. I'm not understanding. I'm not understanding what Emerald Knight did here. His about face. I'm just not buying it. I don't. I'm missing something. So, unfortunately, I mean, other than that, because that was a miss for me. I don't understand this Emerald Knight. I'm more confused now than ever before. I don't understand why he shift allegiances like that. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. He's blaming it on the voices in his head, but the ring was trying to get him to be evil. So why, when the ring is trying to get you to be evil, would you be good? That makes no sense. I miss that. That's sort of like the odd play. The ring tries to get him to be evil, but when the ring tries to get him to do bad, he does good. But then when the ring stops talking to him, he's more likely to do bad. So maybe that's what Andy Schmidt was going for. I don't know, but it's odd. So Sinestro dies, and then Ultra Girl was a really tragic death. I didn't want her to die. I really liked her. She seemed to have the passion and is to be as filled with truth and justice and hope, like our Superman. But she ends up dying, and Ultraman can't believe it. He says Ultraman goes into denial when Kara collapses because he says, this isn't possible. You're like me. You can't die. You can't effing lose. And Alexander Luthor is devastated by Kara's death, by Supergirl's death, as you can imagine. And because Alexander loves her like his own family. But nonetheless, Ultraman blames Ultra Girl's death on Luthor. He doesn't seem to blame Atomica, who is responsible for her death, but he blames Alexander Luthor. And but in any event, that's kind of it. Everyone goes about their, there's new alliances that are forged. The Legion of Justice is defeated, but they go about, they scatter across the globe. Owlman goes back and orchestrates the Court of Owls again. And, sort of a new status quo is set up. And, yeah, it's the crime syndicate is basically in charge of, more in charge of things again. And the crime syndicate says to the world, you've seen what we can do, what happens to our enemies. As for the rest of you 7 billion freeloaders, you can all rest easy now because from this day forward, we will be watching. And so Ultraman makes it clear to all metahumans that we're the top dogs. You do what we tell you, whether you like it or not. And so there's an uneasy status quo that's established, one that you would expect to be established in Earth 3. So again, interesting stuff. The 4-page backup just shows the origin of Atomica, and Atomica just got her powers from basically drinking a formula that Johnny Quick helped her steal, and that's basically her origin, and yeah, that was basically it. And her origin issue is called My Pleasure is Your Pain. So this Atomica, she's one really sick puppy. She's definitely sick. Part of me wishes that we would have more of a black label 6-issue series that Andy Schmidt sort of teased and talked about. But in any event, man, I'd be really curious to know your thoughts on this issue. I just wish you'd read it.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to say without having read it. I do, and no begrudging of spoilers because I didn't know that Kara died. But again, Rocky and I talked about it, and I was like, no, go full board. If I am spoiled on something, I'm spoiled on something. Just one more thing you can blame on the airlines. But I am disappointed to hear that she dies because, much like you, I was excited to learn more about her. And now Earth 3 has a dead Superman and a dead Supergirl, and that's too bad. I think she's more interesting in a way.
Yeah. Well, she might come back. You never know. She might be resurrected because she might come back evil or maybe brain damaged. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing with these flights into Houston on that one night of the year. Yeah.
But in any event, continuing on, we got, where does one go from here? Wow. The next one is Justice League 66.
One more thought on Suicide Squad or Crime Syndicate, real quick. I think this is the first time we've ever had an Earth 3 version of Supergirl, basically. And I guess that's where my disappointment, because I think there was potential there. So maybe that has to do with some of my disappointment that she's dead already. But you're right, it's comic. She can come back.
Yeah, and it kind of goes into the loneliness angle, because that was the big angle that Andy Schmidt was that he'd written about. He teased where Ultraman is lonely. Ultraman never killed his family. Like in the Jeff Johns version, in the New 52 Crime Syndicate version, Jeff Johns scripted Ultraman as killing his family. Whereas this Ultraman by Andy Schmidt in this new Omniverse is one that doesn't want to be alone, and so he treasures the fact that he's got a cousin and he's got family, and I have a sneaking suspicion that future writers are going to bring Kara Supergirl back, or Ultra Girl back on Earth 3. She might be brain damaged, and she might even be evil when she comes back. Who knows? But I think it's too good a character to just sort of kill off like Andy did. But but no, it's good. A lot of potential there. He's planted a lot of Easter eggs. So overall, my judgment of the Crime Syndicate series, this is a really good start for future writers to take, and there's so many Easter eggs in there. And Andy Schmidt talked about he has a Bible of 150 characters for Earth 3, so I would love for him to share that Bible with future writers, just to give them a head start and to see what they can work with. I really like what Robbie Thompson is doing with Earth 3 and how he's scripting it in the pages of Suicide Squad. And I think Robbie Thompson's having a lot of fun with that. And moving forward to the Suicide Squad and the battle between the Suicide Squad and the Crime Syndicate, I think it's going to be very, very interesting, especially if we're going to have a Superman, Connor Kent, becoming the Superman of Earth 3. That is definitely going to change the scope of Earth 3, and it's going to change the status quo on that planet. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, definitely, for sure.
But okay. All right, Justice League number 66. Okay. All right. I'm spoiled. I'm used to tag teaming, doing this stuff with you also in front of your computer there, my friend. But Justice League 66, it's not going to surprise you, Chase. Not a heck of a lot happens here. The cover says it all. Justice ends and the United rise. So, do you want to guess what happens?
Sinmar wins?
You're actually right. Sinmar, artist Phil Hester, I think I'm not a huge fan of Phil Hester on the art, but I think this is some of the best art of Phil Hester's career. I thought he did a really good job here. I was surprised because when I heard that Phil Hester was drawing this, I didn't have high expectations, but the art here is fantastic. He does a really good job. And it starts off with Naomi and Aquaman that the Hall of Justice is in ruins. Remember last issue where Batman tells everyone, don't let the Hall of Justice fall. Don't let this fall. Well, it falls. It falls completely due to the attack from Sinmar Utopica. Sinmar Utopica being the villain that has graced the pages of Bendis' Superman and Action Comics. And this continues. Sinmar Utopica has destroyed the Hall of Justice. Naomi and Aquaman, they're recovering. Hippolyta ends up attacking Sinmar, gets incapacitated. Meanwhile, we go back and see Black Canary and Oliver Queen. They're recovering from their, I guess you could say their attack from this wannabe Deathstroke, and they contact Lois Lane. Now, for those people who've been paying attention, we know from Justice League 65 that Lois Lane has a brother, Damon Rose. That was a huge revelation in Justice League 65 that Damon Rose said, Lois Lane is my sister. What is really odd here, and leave it to Bendis to really screw things up, Black Canary is talking to Lois Lane, and Black Canary says, hi, Lois Lane, this is Dinah. Black Canary, sorry to bother you, but... And Lois Lane finishes her sentence and says, you're with my brother? As if she knew. So what I find incredible about that is, like, Lois Lane knows she has a brother, so I guess it's not a surprise to Lois Lane. How would Lois Lane know that her brother is with Black Canary and Oliver Queen? I mean, none of this has been...
Hold on a second. Before you even get to that, once again, Bendis shitting on the relationship of Lois and Clark because Superman's never said anything about her having a brother.
That's exactly right.
I guess, to play devil's advocate here for a second, what any Bendis fan would say, well, we don't know that Lois didn't tell Clark.
Yeah.
Whatever. Bendis destroying... I don't know why editorial gives him carte blanche to destroy the Hall of Justice. I think that's a bad look. Whatever. They must have had story reasons. I'll buy that. But what I don't understand is them letting him destroy continuity and established canon of relationships between two of the oldest characters in the DCU who trust each other implicitly. And Lois all of a sudden has all these secrets.
Yeah. No,
it's lazy writing. It's ex deus machina, just making shit up that because he's written himself into a corner, or he doesn't know how to get from point A to point B without just making some shit up that supposedly has deep roots in DC history, but has never been mentioned before ever in 80 years of the characters.
Yeah. And it's not even so much, in addition to what you just said, it's very jarring here because not only do we now know that Lois Lane has a brother, but Lois Lane actually asks, did he have something to do with the fall of the Hall of Justice? Like, Lois Lane actually seems to know that her brother is a criminal or that her brother is up to no good. And this is very jarring, I think it's going to be very jarring for a lot of readers. I would have liked to have, this is not a good way to introduce a brother of Lois Lane. I don't really like, whatever. I'm still interested I am interested. I do want to know more about Damon Rose, but it's just like on the cover of Checkmate #2 last week when we reviewed that. Who is Damon Rose? He wasn't even in the issue. And then, it's nonsense. But in this issue, Lois's conversation with Black Canary and Oliver Queen reveals very, very little. They're talking in circles. Black Canary expresses her frustration with Oliver for being involved with Checkmate, and then she refers to Lois's brother as Mini Lane, instead of Mini Me, Mini Lane, and she's pissed off at Oliver for being involved with Checkmate. And again, a useless conversation. So why have Black Canary call Lois Lane and then Lois Lane say, "Oh, you're with my brother? Oh, did my brother cause the Hall of Justice to fall?" Like, what the hell? Who talks like that? And why would Lois even think that? There's so many, Bendis jumps from scene to scene so much that it's so frustrating. The one good thing about this issue, though, I will say, is Phil Hester's art. I find that the line work here is much better than Phil Hester's usually is. I would have to double check to see if this was inked, who this was inked by, or the inks are by Eric Gabster. Eric Gabster does a good job with Phil Hester's art, because a lot of times Phil Hester's art feels a little bit too choppy sometimes, but here it's very, very defined, very well done. There's a great scene here with Hippolyta attacking Sinmar Utopica. She ends up getting her butt kicked, but it's a great action sequence. And we end up learning a little bit more about Sinmar Utopica, because one of the complaints that I had, and I know you did, Chase, many people had with Bendis' Superman run, in the pages of Superman, we didn't learn a lot about Sinmar Utopica. We didn't learn exactly what his motives were. We weren't even sure if he was a bad guy, quite frankly. I mean, and his language, the dialogue of how Sinmar Utopica spoke in the pages of Superman was atrocious. It was very hard to understand and to figure out what Sinmar was saying, or any of his other citizens from his planet. Sinmar Utopica is from the planet called Sinmar Utopica, which is another insane thing. But whatever. What's interesting here is that Bendis has changed the manner of the dialogue, how Sinmar speaks, so it's actually easier to understand. I couldn't believe it. I had to open my Superman, my back issues of Superman, to compare how Sinmar speaks. He's easier to understand here because it's just written better, but it still makes not a lot of sense. Sinmar Utopica has this plan. He wants to capture the Earth. So he contacts his planet and says, "I've conquered the Earth. I'm going to offer the Earth so you can bring me back, and I want to barter to the Sinmar Planetaria for forgiveness of my sins, and as penance, I give you the planet Earth that I've now conquered." That's essentially what he's doing. And of course, it's easy to conquer Earth, right? Because of course it's written by Bendis, so Sinmar defeats the entire Justice League and destroys the Hall of Justice. And but that's essentially what happens. Fortunately, Superman steps into the fray. Superman tries to reason with Sinmar, and what I love about this scene is that Black Adam interjects and says, "No, Superman, let me handle this." And Black Adam doesn't feel like negotiating with Sinmar, and he attacks him. And that's one thing that Bendis gets right. It's Black Adam in this issue. Black Adam attacks Sinmar Utopica and, punches him right into the skyline above the Hall of Justice. It's a great scene. And so there's great action here. There's even some good dialogue between Naomi and John Constantine. Some good humor. John Constantine wants to hide out Naomi and her parents underneath the Hall of Justice, where they have that Bibbo, the detective chimps. He has that bar hidden in another. They can enter the Tower of Fate from the basement of the Hall of Justice to basically protect themselves. And there's even a bar that he didn't mention it, but there's also I think what was the Eternity Bar or something that Justice League Dark went into in the past. Anyways, that's all under the Hall of Justice, and there's a great scene there. Naomi puts her parents into safety with John Constantine, and then of course she heroically goes back to try to help the rest of the heroes rescue the people that need help from all the debris, and help Black Adam and the rest of the league fight Sinmar Utopica. And there's a whole slew of other Justice Leaguers that show up. There's a lot of action in this issue. I have to say that even though I would have preferred David Marquez on the art, I got to say Phil Hester, he does these action sequences just very well. There's a lot of kinetic energy. There's a lot going on, and it's really good to see. At the end of it basically ends with a nice, well-drawn page with the United Order showing up. The United Order, remember the United Order of the United Planets? They basically replaced the Green Lantern Corps. So the United Order is looking for Sinmar Utopica. They actually come to Earth, and they want to arrest Sinmar Utopica to have him atone, to be punished for his sins. And Superman tells Sinmar to surrender, or we'll do it for you. And yeah, so interesting issue, man. Interesting issue. Did you catch any of what I said? What are your thoughts, Jace?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan of Hester either on superhero stuff. Obviously, I haven't seen the art, so I can't really speak to that. But just to reiterate what I said about Bendis killing continuity and to give him a flagship title, and I don't understand. We know he doesn't script well, and now you give him an arguably harder scripting job when there's multiple characters. And when you're kind of phoning it in, fans can certainly tell.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you this.
With Suicide or with Justice League.
Yeah. Bendis definitely focuses this issue on Sinmar Utopica. There's at least 3 pages where he focuses exclusively on Naomi and explaining how heroic Naomi is, and Naomi, taking her parents to safety and flying off into the battle. This is clearly trying to give props to Naomi, trying to prop up her character, trying to prop up even Black Adam. And there's, frankly, I'm gonna forgive Bendis a little bit for that. He is working with his own characters. There's definitely some ego involved there, but this is actually I actually think this is one of the better scripted issues. It still has some of those Bendis issues that we've seen in the past, but it is actually better. And there's, at least we're moving it forward a little bit. Again, not much. We're still at the end where we were last issue. Last issue ended where we thought maybe Sinmar was going to be knocked unconscious by Superman. And now this issue ends with Superman confronting Sinmar. It's the same thing. But it's an issue drawn by a different artist, just giving us a bunch of action sequences. But so in terms of story progression, we didn't get a lot of story progression, but yet ironically enough, I did enjoy this issue more than in previous issues. So it is for what it's worth. The Justice League Dark Backup, written by writer Ram V, artist Sumit Kumar, colorist Romula Fajudo Jr. This is Drowned Secrets. This involves the 13th Night taking Randhir Singh, who is she's exploring the mind of Randhir Singh, who Batman helped the 13th Night enter the mind of this Randhir Singh, who is a friend of the demon Etrigan, to basically help him fight through he's got to kill different versions of himself in his mind in order to get out of his mind, to get out of the traps in his mind, to battle Merlin, who is currently at Atlantis trying to release powerful magics at Atlantis. Artist here, Sumit Kumar, does an amazing job. There's a fantastic 2-page spread where Sumit Kumar draws Kandir's brain, and you can see he out of his illustrated brain, you can see segments of the brain where all these different universes of different versions of Randhir Singh are slowly being attacked and killed off. And the 13th Night is doing that on purpose because it's the only way to bring Randhir Singh back, so that there's only one of them in his mind. So there's only one of himself occupying his mind. And she's successful doing it. And it actually works really well. Batman's watching the whole thing. He warns Randhir. He said, look, you've been under this sort of like mind manipulation for a long time. Your body is frail and you're in the early stages of muscular atrophy. You got to relax. The 13th Nights reminds Batman that Randhir is still has the mind of a child in an old body, so his mind is still recovering. And Batman tells him, look, Randhir, we need your help. Merlin is at the doors of Atlantis. We are already warned by Aquaman and the Justice League Dark that this would happen. We need your help. Randhir says, I know what Merlin's after. We have to stop him. And then it switches to Atlantis. And this is where Sumit Kumar's art really takes off as well. Great action sequences in the bottom of the sea in Atlantis, battling Merlin. Very well done. And there's some interesting use of colors where we witness Atlantis getting slowly destroyed, citizens being attacked, and very well done. The Kingsguard of Atlantis and Tempest prevent as much damage as they can. They rescue as many people as they can. Meanwhile, John Constantine knows exactly what Merlin's trying to do, and he enters the drowned city. And John Constantine intends on confronting Merlin in the dark world that lies beneath Atlantis, and that's how that issue ends. Surprise, surprise, Jace. There's more story here that happens in 8 pages of Justice League Dark than in the last 2 issues of the Justice League under Bendis. I'm sure that won't surprise you. Can you hear me, bud?
Yeah, sorry, I was still on mute. I said, yeah, I mean, Ram V continues to give us a really interesting story with mostly B characters, so it's not a surprise that he's leaning into the magical aspects. And yeah, I mean, that's who these characters are, right?
Yeah, I gotta tell you, I really hope that they come out with a. I want them to come out with a trade with just these Justice League Dark stories, these chapters, because it deserves its own comic book. It really does.
Yeah, I think they will, because, just like we saw the announcement, they're going to collect the Wonder Woman All Ages book, which is a backup in Wonder Woman. I think, same size backups here. They probably won't collect them, I guess.
Yeah. But, well, the next one is Crushing Lobo number 3. And I gotta tell you, Jace, I called this one. This was actually fairly predictable. And writer Marika Tamaki on Crushing Lobo number 3, she actually does a okay, guys. Looks like we temporarily lost Jace. He's crossing over into Arizona from California. So I'm gonna probably finish these reviews myself, and he can chime in at any time if he can. But I'm gonna basically finish these reviews as best I can here, and we will go from there. Jumping into Crushing Lobo here, issue 3. I got to tell you, I'm not a big fan of, first of all, I am a big fan of this cover. This is a fantastic cover. I got the original cover back in the day, which I think, was it in the late 80s or 90s? This is what happens when you're like me and you've been collecting comic books for over 4 decades. After a while, it is possible to confuse a decade with another one. It happens. At least it happens in my life. Welcome to it, temporarily. In any event, Bite Me Fanboy. Fantastic cover. Really great cover. This is, the art here is by, I don't know who does the cover art here. The Marika Tamaki is the writer. The artist is a Manke Nahulpen, and the cover is Bernard Shang, and the variant cover is by Kerry Randolph and Peter Steigerwald. And yeah, I can't say that I'm a big fan of the of that second cover B, but it is what it is. It's not bad. But I got to tell you, I predicted the outcome of issue 3. I thought it was fairly obvious where this was going, and because here's the thing. Crush she's searching. She wants to go and visit her dad in prison because Crush has got a girlfriend, and she's going through girlfriend angst, and she wants to visit daddy in prison. I don't know. Does she figure? Who on God's green earth thinks that talking to your dad, Lobo, is going to give you some kind of insight into life? Your dad is Lobo. Do you honestly believe you're going to come to any kind of realization when you talk? You're not going to get any profound insight talking to Lobo just because he's your dad. In any event, I get to say I told you so here. And I suppose maybe I almost feel like apologizing to Mariko Tamaki a little bit here, because this issue is actually better than the first two. I really don't like the flashbacks between Crush and her girlfriend. I don't think her girlfriend is appropriate for the character because her girlfriend's just too perfect. And nothing against her girlfriend. It's just putting Crush with a perfect girlfriend whose parents are billionaires, and it just doesn't work. But I love the concept here. The concept in this issue is Crush ends up going to prison to talk to Lobo, and they utilize the concept here that Lobo is Azarian and Crush is Azarian too. But there's only supposed to be one Zarian in the universe, and that's Lobo. And so there's only one DNA sample of any Zarian, and that would be Lobo. And the prison is built upon recognizing the DNA code of all prisoners. And because Crush has the same DNA as her father, it ends up that Lobo just intentionally wanted to have Crush come to the prison so that he could switch places with her and basically set her up so that by the end of this issue, Crush ends up in prison and Lobo ends up walking out of prison, and the prison... they can't tell the difference between, as ridiculous as that sounds, the prison system can't tell the difference between Lobo and Crush, even though they visually look obviously very different. But for the white skin and the crazy eye makeup, the reality is that they identify prisoners on the basis of their genetic code, and since the Zarian genetic code is extremely, apparently very unique, Crush ends up replacing her father. So she ends up, unfortunately, being caught in prison. And again, this has some cute moments here. I think Lobo basically tells her, look, you got no reason to trust me. I know I'm a homicidal terror, and that's it. That puts a lot on you, a lot of baggage. And, she seems to be pretty cool about it. But as Lobo tells her, you're the only person in this universe that I could even possibly give a nut about. Who would I give a nut about? His left nut or his right nut? I don't know. Who would I have even a speck of interest in helping? Not repeat my effing past. Anyways, so Lobo is really pouring on the steam here. He's really trying his best to BS his daughter, and I'm not even sure if Crush really buys it, but she says, I'd say the possibility of my dad wanting to go on a journey of emotional discovery with his daughter is number 2 on my list of things that will never, ever happen. So Crush here is not completely naive. And she needs to think about what some of the things her dad said, Lobo said. She wants to go grab a bite to eat. She goes right back, and she goes into a vending machine. In any event, she ends up being, once she goes to the vending machine, she then is confronted by one of the, I guess, these automated robotic systems that identify her as a prison, as inmate number 2981, which was the same inmate number of Lobo. And it becomes quite clear that, that she is there to replace Lobo. That's the plan. That's Lobo's plan. And of course, Crush gets pretty angry here, takes it out on all these innocent robotic mechanisms. But it doesn't matter. She ends up in prison. Lobo ends up walking out. And I don't think Lobo gives a rat's butt. I actually like that because I don't think Lobo would care that his daughter's in prison either. He probably figures that she's going to live a long time anyway. She's eventually going to escape. He's probably not going to lose any sleep over it. As he says to her, "See you later, kid." And he basically gets in. He steals a ride. And meanwhile, Crush ends up in prison, and where her dad is supposed to be. Overall, again, Tamaki did a good job here. But I predicted this. This was actually a fairly predictable storyline. But I like to think that, and I'm not the only one that predicted this. I mean, I'm the guys at Weird Science, the guys I chat to, they also predicted this. This is a predictable storyline, but one that I think maybe works well I hope they do something with this. It makes the story a little bit more interesting. Now she's going to probably escape from prison, there's going to be some more chaos and what have you. I like this issue better because we didn't get a lot of the flashbacks. We got some flashbacks of Crush being late, showing up late for her girlfriends, meeting her parents, missing the dates 3 times in a row and all that nonsense. Again, I really don't care about that. I enjoyed the humor and the nonsense between Lobo and Crush. That was by far the most enjoyable part of this issue. And yeah, so guys, this is the best of the issue so far, of the 3 issues so far. It's still a miss for me, but I still, look, this comic book isn't for me. I've said that before, but Marika Tamaki is doing a good job here. She does have a handle on the whole teenage angst thing a little bit. She has had some success with DC, even though it's not my cup of tea. DC does seem to like her writing those young fictions, and she did write I Am Not Starfire, which has got mixed reviews. She also wrote Breaking Glass, the Harley Quinn young adult fiction. So her writing Crush with having some angst and some girlfriend issues is probably right in Marika Tamaki's wheelhouse. And she even does a reasonably good job of scripting a Lobo who's a jerk of a father, which is exactly what he ought to be, because he's Lobo. What do you expect? But hey, there you go. So, all right. So next one on the list to review, what we are going to jump to. We're going to jump to Batman 111. And I got to say, guys, Batman 111, a lot in this issue. A lot happens in this issue. Writer James Tynion, the fourth, I mean, I remain impressed with his Batman. More impressed, I know, than Chase has been. But I gotta say, man, Tynion, I think all the character work that he has done in creating this rich rogues gallery for Batman, it's just been fantastic. I mean, I'm thoroughly enjoying this. I enjoyed Batman in Future State, and ironically enough, even though we know where Future State is going, we've read the Batman Future State issues. We know that ultimately Bruce Wayne ends up being, killed, although not really killed, but believed to be dead. Batman's sort of taken off the playing field. That we know that the Peacekeeper 1 comes in, who is Simon's saying part of the Magistrate's forces. This is the origin of all that. And in Batman 111 here, what's really great is that we get all these things coming together. We got Batman and Ghostmaker coming off the heels of last issue, trying to rescue Miracle Molly and the Unsanity Collective that who are being attacked by the Magistrate Peacekeeper forces because they're the goal here of Simon Saint is to manipulate Mayor Nagano into believing that the Insanity Collective are the people responsible for all the chaos that's going on in Gotham City, when it's really the forces of the magistrate Simon Saint that are stoking it, as well as the Scarecrow, and they're creating a lot of fear, and they're blaming the Insanity Collective when it's really not them at all. It's just Simon Saint and the magistrate manipulating things, and Scarecrow manipulating things. And this issue, I gotta say, this one of the things that what I really liked about here, and where this issue is going to stand out is in particular with Miracle Molly. And first, I got to give a shout out here. This Lucio Perillo does a variant cover for the Suicide Squad movie for Batman 111. It is absolutely gorgeous. It has Harley Quinn on it, the Polka Dot Man, and damn, I'm not even sure who that other woman is. I'm not sure who that is. Is that Rat woman or whatever the hell? I'm not sure. But in any event, looks fantastic. Looks fantastic. I haven't seen them, obviously. It's I'm reviewing right now comic books that came out that'll be coming out August 3rd. Suicide comes out August 6th. And wow, my God, Lucio Perillo, fantastic art. But in any event, wow, we got fantastic covers here for Batman 111. But we got the Scarecrow here reminding Batman that, he's in charge, that sort of taunting Batman. Meanwhile, the magistrate's forces, the peacekeepers, have already confronted Miracle Molly, and this young child who is in front of Miracle Molly is I believe this child is a transgender person, because Miracle Molly refers to the child as with the pronoun they, and so if I say they, hopefully you won't be confused, but the child is a transgender child that Miracle Molly is trying to save. And Miracle Molly seems to have a power that Miracle Molly seems to be able, one of her eyes seems to be electronic, and she tells this young child to stay calm and don't do anything stupid. They're not going to hit you. And Miracle Molly, the sequence here, beautiful art by artist Jorge Jiminez, but it's a little bit unclear as to what happens here. I thought at first that somebody that one of the peacekeepers had shot Miracle Molly in the back of the head, but I think she caused the gun to shoot, because Miracle Molly, I guess, she could tell the gun was gonna, or maybe she could tell the gun was gonna shoot, and she avoided being shot in the head, and she took her friend, and her friend apparently has the power to create a sonic blast, a sonic cry, and her transgender friend, and I'm not even sure what her friend's name is, just she keeps calling her kid, hey Squeak. She calls her Squeak. So the kid's name is Squeak. Squeak has a sonic cry, and they escape the magistrate's forces, and they essentially try to run away from the magistrate's forces with the help of another person named Breaker, who is a member of the Insanity Collective. And this Breaker character attacks the peacekeepers. But ultimately, this Breaker, who, while he helps Miracle Molly and Squeak get away, the fact is that they still need more help, and they end up getting shot. Squeak ends up getting shot, and it's really unfortunate. So Squeak is shot and is dying and needs help. The other members of the Insanity Collective need help. They need rescue. And fortunately, there's a great scene where one of the members of the Insanity Collective says, "I don't know who could possibly save us." And it's a perfect setup for the next gorgeous 2-page spread where it shows Ghostmaker, Batman, and Harley Quinn showing up to save the day. It's very well done. It's absolutely beautifully rendered. Beautiful 2-page spread with Harley Quinn swearing, "That's right, you bastards. You don't mess with the Bat family unless you want to get hit with a big effing bat." Of course, the swear words, the lettering is all done. Whenever there's a swear word, there's little bat symbols where the swear words would be. So that's kind of comical there. And it's perfect coming out of Harley Quinn's mouth. beautiful sequence here, beautifully laid out, and Harley Quinn is working well with Batman. They're being attacked by drones. Fortunately, they got Ghostmaker with them, and they managed to get the Insanity Collective out of there. But the problem here is that Mayor Nagano now thinks that that Batman is working with the Insanity Collective. So Batman is now being judged as working with the bad guys. And this is really unfortunate because this was all a setup. It looks like this was all a setup to make Batman look bad, to make the Batman family look bad. And that's exactly, unfortunately, what happens is that, these drones that are flying around, they tape all this, and Mayor Nagano goes on TV and says effective immediately he's expanding the authority of the magistrate to dismantle all costume crime and vigilantism in Gotham. So it's at that moment where being a vigilante in Gotham becomes illegal by unilateral declaration of Mayor Nagano. And that's what we saw play out in the pages of Future State, and that we still see playing out in the pages of Future State Gotham with Red Hood. And in any event, Simon Saint looks on here, and Simon Saint is quite proud, happy with himself. Meanwhile, they're working on Ghostmaker is trying to stop the bleeding on young Squeak, but they still need to get Squeak to a hospital. Batman, of course, Batman always has a plan, and Batman says to Harley and Ghostmaker, I need you to get the Insanity Collective somewhere safe and out of sight until we get them to testify against Simon Saint, because Simon Saint paid the Insanity Collective to attack to ferment all the robberies that started all of it, to show that it was all part of the plan. Simon Saint orchestrated all of this nonsense that Batman and the Insanity Collective are essentially getting blamed for, even though the Insanity Collective, in fact, did that voluntarily. Their purpose was more, shall we say, benevolent than the malevolency of Simon Saint and the magistrate. In any event, it's quite clear that looking at all this is the Scarecrow, and the Scarecrow betrays Simon Saint. And surprise, surprise, the Scarecrow not only betrays Simon Saint, but he betrays the Peacemaker, and Scarecrow incapacitates the Peacemaker. And also, it would appear cause something to go wrong with Simon Saint. I don't know if he poisons Simon Saint or what, but clearly the Scarecrow ends up being the one in charge, just as Batman falls in front of the Scarecrow, and that's how this part 6 of the Cowardly Lot ends. Overall, this was an action-packed issue. Again, James Tynion, the fourth man, he's done a really good job here. The art here is fantastic. I think this is going to read so well as a trade. I don't understand people that are saying that the complaints. The action here is fantastic. I mean, it's high paced, it's action packed, it's got gravitas. Even though we know where it ends up with Future State, this journey getting there is an absolute adrenaline rush. And again, Future State, I understand that criticism because I've even made it. But look, this is a good enough story that you can still really enjoy the journey getting to Future State, because we still don't know how they get out of Future State. It's the journey getting there that is the most fascinating, because we get to meet all these new characters. I mean, Miracle Molly is fascinating as hell. Squeak is a character. It's impossible not to love little Squeak. Not she, but they is an interesting new character. And yeah, guys, I mean, I don't know. Tell me, guys, leave some comments below. Those listening on the podcast, feel free to check out the YouTube version of this and leave a comment. But I'm loving Batman. This is great. And again, I apologize to listeners of who are expecting that Jace can give some counterpoints to what I'm saying here, his point of view. Unfortunately, he's tied up on the drive between. He's driving through Arizona right now, getting home. And if he links in, he can link in. But if not, I'll be. You'll have to listen to my stellar voice. I say with sarcasm for the remainder of these reviews. But we just want to get them to you as we can here. But yeah, so that's how that Batman issue ends. Now, the Ghostmaker backup here. this was one of the, I think this is actually one of the better ones here. A lot of people don't like Ghostmaker. I personally really enjoy Ghostmaker. The backups to this, James Tynion has had a lot of fun creating a rogues gallery for Ghostmaker and just throwing a bunch of new characters and new villains at Ghostmaker and exploring the origins of each of the various villains of Ghostmaker's rogues gallery in the backup features to this Batman. And this is essentially I think this is the 6th chapter of the Ghostmaker backup, taking place on Devil Skull Island, where Madame Midas is the villain here, that Ghostmaker wants to take down Madame Midas. And I gotta say, in this particular one, we get the origin of this other villain, and I'm not even sure what his name is, but he seems to have this gift for this villain is immortal and was always fascinated with death, but he was defeated by Ghostmaker because Ghostmaker also has died before. We don't know how or why, but Ghostmaker, of course, defeats this other character, and this other character is telling Madame Midas, "Look, man, you're not going to defeat Ghostmaker that way. I mean, you could." The last time we saw Ghostmaker in the backup, Madame Midas had dropped a building on him, but we know that Ghostmaker would escape that. And of course, all the villains of Ghostmaker that are there with Madame Midas, Madame Midas set them all up. They don't want to fight Ghostmaker because he's too capable an opponent. But it looks like next issue, which will be in the Batman Annual #1, it's going to be concluded. So Ghostmaker's finally going to confront all of his rogues gallery once and for all in Batman Annual #1. And I'm looking forward to it. It's a lot of fun. One thing about the art here, Ricardo Lopez Ortiz, the artist on these Ghostmaker backups, it's a very, very stylistic, unique kind of art. It might not be for everybody, but it definitely grows on you the more you especially now this was the 5th chapter of this backup, not the 6th, like I'd said earlier. I think it works very well. I'm actually fascinated by Madame Midas. I do think that James Tynion maybe makes all these villains and rogues for Ghostmaker perhaps a little bit too simplistic, and I think people have criticized that about his villains, that he's sort of like he's just creating them and he's just throwing them at the wall. It's like throwing something at a wall, hoping something's going to stick. I'm actually more forgiving than that. I say again what James Tynion said in his first newsletter that he sends out to people who subscribe to his newsletter. He says he wants to keep things simple, and he thinks that a lot of writers tend to try to overcomplicate things. And my interpretation of that is that he wants to keep things simple in terms of just, create a character, put the character out there, watch the character grow. And that's, don't insult the reader. Keep things simple, and the complexity will come with the character as the character moves forward and as those characters evolve and other writers write them. That's what I think is happening with this. People are going to look back on Tynion's Batman and on his Ghostmaker and say, they're going to remember these stories as being probably better than they actually are. But these are the classic days. These are the early days. Because remember, guys, when the Joker premiered, when the Riddler premiered, when the Penguin and Catwoman and Poison Ivy premiered, those weren't exactly stellar first appearances by any stretch of the imagination. And these first appearances by these villains that James Tynion has put out are substantially better. I would say some of them are great. Are good to great. And I do think he deserves far more credit than he's been getting in some quarters here. It's not just Something Is Killing the Children and Department of Truth that he's doing a great job. It's also on Batman. And that's my opinion on that. But, all right, so continuing on. Now, there is, what am I missing here? Oh, yes, we got to check out something else here. Nice House on the Lake. Well, guys, I got to tell you, Nice House on the Lake, #3. I just want to bring something up here, because what I have in front of me now, for those of you who are listening to this as a podcast, what I'm showing on the screen here is the cover, the third printing, the 1 in 25 third printing of the first issue of Nice House on the Lake. And it's fantastic because what it actually shows, and I touched it up a little bit, but it shows all the characters of James Tynion's Nice House on the Lake, because it consists of, there's 8 characters. There's this alien called Walter, and of course, he's got 8 friends. Now, his friends didn't know that Walter was an alien, but throughout Walter's life, he has befriended 8 different people. He's befriended the artist, the acupuncturist, the reporter, the writer, the scientist, the accountant, the comedian, the pianist, the doctor, and the consultant. And throughout his life, he's met them, he's befriended them, they've become he's been there for them, this guy named Walter. And so the reason why he did that, and the premise of Nice House on the Lake, is that he invites them all out to a nice house on the lake for a weekend, for actually 7 days, and he's actually got an agenda for them for 7 days. And of course, at the beginning of the week, the world ends. The world is utterly, completely, utterly destroyed. And that's quite something, obviously. Now, what's fascinating here, what makes it a horror, is that Walter is kind of an eerie guy. And by the time we get into the third issue here, it's clear that some things are, shall we say, things are getting more and more interesting, because there's starting to be fractions in the group. Because some members of this group, I mean, for example, one member of the group here, Sam Nugent, the reporter, he wants to get to the bottom of this. He wants to get to the bottom of this Nice House on the Lake, because he's frustrated as hell, because he figures, my God, we got to, guys, we can't just sit here and enjoy this, even though they got all the amenities, anything they want. They got all the food they want. It's beautiful. It's a gorgeous house on the lake. But Sam is thinking to himself, good Lord, we have to get out of here. Like we have to look, we have to see what we can do to get the hell out of here. And that's where things, in this issue 3, things start to ramp up a little bit, because now the issue starts off with Sam, the reporter. He's on a boat and he's talking about how Walter was back in high school. And Walter, he recalls that at times in high school, Walter would call him and ask him to make sure that some of the other friends, Norm, the writer, and Ronnie their other friends, their mutual friends, Norm and Ronnie, were okay. Walter would routinely do that. Sam basically narrates the fact that Walter would often reach out to each of them whenever his life would feel out of control in any way. Walter always seemed to show up. And whenever Sam's instinct tell him that whenever Walter's life, or whenever Walter felt overwhelmed, Walter would call them himself, and Walter would often overcompensate for them. And you get a sense of that here. Walter is overcompensating because he wants to help all his friends, because after all, he wants to save them. And he wants to save them from the end of the world. Walter is this alien. He's protecting them. He's sheltering them in this nice house on the lake. But meanwhile, what's fascinating here is, Sam, the reporter, he wants to convince other people to help him find, just to explore, to find out how the hell to get out of there, to find out more about the outside world. But the obstacle that he has is other people. In particular, there's Rick. Rick of the group. Rick is content. He just wants to drink beers. He wants to boat. He wants to watch Disney movies. And other people want to join him. I mean, this is their second or third day. And some of the members of the group, they've already resigned themselves to the fact that the world's ended. The world's ended, but hey, we got beer. We got steak. We got movies. We got Disney movies. We got any book we want to read. We got any movie we want. What's the big deal? I mean, we can't change the end of the world. It's already happened. Meanwhile, Sam, the reporter, he goes out and he discovers, he's sickened and he's disgusted by his friends that don't want to find out more. Because he even says, "Are you freaking kidding me?" He says, "You guys are going to sit here and Rick says to him, "Well, look, so just take a day off." And but Sam can't do that, and so Sam takes off, and he ends up meeting another person of the group, the artist, who's drawing all these symbols, because throughout the book there are these different statues with different shapes on them, and whenever you touch these statues, you see an image of what happened to your family. You get an image of how your family died out in the real world. That's the horror aspect of this. It's kind of eerie. Walter's kind of an eerie character. Walter, the host, he comes and goes, but he's clearly an alien, and his body, they hit Walter in the head at the end of the first issue and he doesn't die. His body just warps. Meanwhile, if you touch certain objects, which appear to be strategically placed around the nice house on the lake, these objects cause you to see images of your loved ones dying in the real world, being wiped out in Armageddon, essentially, which is what's happened to the rest of the world. Very freaky, very off-putting. Meanwhile, Sam goes, and surrounding the nice house on the lake, they appear to be inside a barrier of some kind. That becomes very obvious, and the barrier slightly stings Sam's hand. And so he sees that something's amiss. Also in the background, it's very eerie. We, the reader, can see Walter, the host, the alien host, spying on Sam. Walter has already befriended a number of the other friends who are on Walter's side, because Walter very much, he doesn't want anybody to mess with anything. It's basically just enjoy the nice house on the lake. But it's really odd. What happens when this week is up? Because we discovered last issue that Walter actually created a timeline for everyone, but it ends after 1 week at the end of the 7th day. What's going to happen at the end of the 7th day? Interestingly enough, Sam uses a stick and touches the barrier, and he's walking around the lake, and he's trying to trace its boundaries to see if he can find anything. And basically what he discovers, well, he doesn't really discover anything, but he starts to take notes. And he discovers, he's not sure he sees birds, but he asks, can we eat the birds? Why do the full circles, why do some of the statues have full circles, others have partial circles? There's no obvious crops or herbs. He's not really sure about what kind of plants that surround them are. He finds sometimes when you walk near a sculpture, sometimes if you walk near one sculpture, it would cancel out all noise, while other sculptures, while in others there would be a humming sound. Things were really off, and it's he's taken all these notes. Now, as far as what comes of it, he comes across something very odd, almost like a giant chess piece, and he sees all these strange objects strategically placed on this board that looks like the same shape as the lake. And on the board, he can see that at the one end of the lake is a representation of the nice house on the lake. And he finds it very curious. And he doesn't know what to make of it, but he's scared and he's pissed off. And he sees Walter always in the background, sort of spying on him. And he says, he's wondering what the hell is going on. And meanwhile, Reg, another member of the house, is trapped, and he can see Sam, but Sam apparently can't see him, but Walter can. So it's really eerie. So this what James Tynion does so well here is that what makes the nice house on the lake so fascinating is that this is really a paradise for those who wish to enjoy it as a paradise. But for those who wish to ignore the paradise and walk around, there are things that can terrify you. And it's interesting that Sam is choosing to go on the very hunts that terrify him, whereas guys like Rick just want to sit there, drink beer, and watch Disney movies. It's very interesting. You get the different character templates here. Now, I know what I would be doing if I was in the nice house on the lake, and it would involve a beer and a Disney movie. If I'm honest, it probably wouldn't be a Disney movie. I might even watch a horror movie. I wonder if they got comic books. Walter stockpiled that nice house on the lake. Did he put comic books in it? I hope so. Anyways, I would check this out. Nice house on the lake. This is completely fascinating. This would make an absolutely fantastic Netflix movie or Amazon, for whatever streaming service. This is really, really good. It ends up Sam gets back to the nice house on the lake, and he's questioned by his lover, the acupuncturist. I call these guys by what they do for a living. And it looks as if Sam figures I found out all I was going to find. Now let's go home. Sam plans to fully go home. He wants to go home, and that's just how Sam feels about it. And that's just the way it's going to be. Now, it is fascinating here that every one of the people that are in the nice house on the lake, they have a symbol in front of them. If you look on the cover of the third printing of issue 1, each one has their own symbol. Each individual house guest of the nice house on the lake has their own symbol associated with them, which is very fascinating, which isn't obvious to me when you read the comic, but it's on the 1:25 ratio cover of the third printing of issue 1, which unfortunately I can't get because my retailer's not ordering enough copies. I wish it was just the ordinary third printing. That was a strategic error, I think, on James Tynion's part, because it's a fantastic cover and it should be part of the comic as far as I'm concerned, or part of the cover. But in any event, guys, check out, it's great. Nice house on the lake, high grade again. And again, just for the guys who are maybe jumping ahead, Jace is somewhere, he's lost. He's driving home from Arizona, and the coverage isn't too good, so I got to review most of these myself. So you got to grin and bear it. But in any event, guys, nice house on the lake. It was a great issue. Definitely one of the better issues of the week so far. Now, next issue, we are going to check out Green Lantern. Green Lantern number 5. Now, what's there to say about Green Lantern number 5? Well, this is an issue that, first of all, the cover of this issue is actually, it's gorgeous. It has Joe Mulane, the Green Lantern, on the bottom, sort of flying toward what looks like the entire Sinestro Corps, and it looks like she's about to get her. Butt handed to her. But in any event, this issue, I would say, I didn't find really a lot happened here, but again, I'm impressed enough with Geoffrey Thorne that writer Geoffrey Thorne does enough here to move the story forward enough that it's fascinating enough. Now, last issue ended with Teen Lantern being so upset that the OA was destroyed and that the central battery was destroyed that Teen Lantern blames Sinestro. So she wants to fly and attack, essentially, she wants to attack and kill Sinestro. Now, Teen Lantern, she's only 10 years old? I don't know why she would be doing that, but basically that's what she does. And this issue basically consists of primarily that. There's two things. There's Teen Lantern attempting to attack Sinestro and pretty much the entire Sinestro Corps. And this Teen Lantern actually holds her own, which I find quite shocking. But there's actually some pretty good artistic sequences here by multiple artists here. Tom Rainey, Marco Santucci, and Andy McDonald. They did actually a decent job here. Again, I just want to give a shout out to the Suicide Squad movie cover, which has Polka Dot Man on it, Savant, and not even sure who the guy with the stuff tucked to his brain. Anyways, man, I'm so glad I got all these Suicide Squad covers. They're awesome. A great cover B. I'm not sure which artist that is, but a great cover B artist of Joe Milane, the Green Lantern. And the opening sequence here, Geoffrey Thorne must really think Sinestro has a great life, because Sinestro wakes up from having a threesome here. It's called, this issue is called The Standard Model, and it shows Sinestro here with two aliens. He's surrounded by two aliens, and clearly Sinestro has no problem benefiting from the fact that he is a Yellow Lantern, that he is a Sinestro Corps member. I mean, let's face it, when you have a yellow ring and you name the entire Corps after yourself, things are going very well. But something catches Sinestro's eye as he's laying in bed with two alien women. And he goes out and he discovers that, yes, his fellow Sinestro Corps members are being brutally attacked by none other than Teen Lantern, who is just creating constructs out of her ass. I mean, she's doing a phenomenal job. I mean, this Teen Lantern, she knows what she's doing. In fact, they have to alert the elite guard of the Sinestro Corps to stop Teen Lantern, and they're unsuccessful doing it. She does an amazing job. She's just so pissed off. Well, finally, the big guns, Arkillo and I can't remember all the names of the various members of the Sinestro Corps. Arkillo is the only one I can remember here, but in any event, they attack her, and surprisingly enough, she holds her own pretty damn good, and it ends up that a member of the Sinestro Corps ends up helping Teen Lantern and telling her to get the hell off the planet before she ends up getting herself killed. And the member that helps her, I'm not sure who this member is. I think it's Jessica Cruz. And this individual, I'm pretty sure it's Jessica Cruz, because Jessica Cruz did, I believe, become a member of the Sinestro Corps, ended up with a yellow ring. I can't remember what issue that was. You guys can let me know in the chat, or those listening on the podcast, maybe you can ponder that or Google that, but I can't remember. It was in a previous issue where Jessica Cruz became a member of the Sinestro Corps, but she's not identified here, and I'm not really sure why. Or maybe it was in a Future State issue. That's why they're playing it so close to the vest, because she doesn't reveal to Teen Lantern that she's Jessica Cruz, but you can tell it's Jessica Cruz because they always give Jessica Cruz the one little eye. They always make the Green Lantern, or in this case, the Sinestro symbol, appear in front of Jessica Cruz's eye, and they're doing that here too. In any event, this issue was actually pretty good because it has Teen Lantern. It explores young Teen Lantern's fears, and in this case, it's established that Teen Lantern's fears is being alone because she lost her mother, and she has and it goes through the different types of fear that sort of make up the Sinestro Corps and what the Sinestro Corps can bring out. And it's interesting that Jessica Cruz utilizes the ring to try to explore what Teen Lantern's fear is, and ultimately helps the Teen Lantern get off the planet. I think it was somebody's wearing some armor here, and I think that's Simon Biez wearing that armor is there to rescue her. I would have thought it would have been Joe Milane, but I guess it's Simon Biez is there to help get her off, get Teen Lantern off New Karagar, and Jessica Cruz helps him get off Karagar, and because she doesn't want them to be hurt or attacked by the Sinestro Corps members that are quickly going to attack them. So that's how that issue ends, and it was a very well drawn issue. I was impressed. I thought it was interesting. We didn't really reveal much though. But we did maybe get a little bit of backstory, a little bit of some hints as about Teen Lanterns, what she fears. She lost her mother, it looks like, and she's had some trauma as a child. It's interesting now what is Jessica Cruz up to, if she's now a Sinestro Corps member. Yeah, I'm not. This seemed to be almost like a waste of time. Why all this time going to New Karagar? For what purpose? Well, it appears to be, even though it appears to be just for the purpose of showing that, to introduce Jessica Cruz, I guess, or this new Yellow Lantern, because really not a lot happens here. It's just Teen Lantern throwing a tantrum. And then we jump ahead to the planet that John Stewart is on, where essentially John Stewart is being blamed for for what's happened to the planet, even though John Stewart helped Matter and her daughter Elo and the other citizens of this planet, defeat the slavers that were enslaving them. They blame John Stewart for what happened, and he actually even says, "Yeah, it is my fault." Because the slavers actually are looking for lanterns. They're looking to collect rings, and they've already killed 300 Green Lanterns, because these slavers have collected already 300 Green Lantern rings. Out of 1,000 Green Lantern Corps members in the Dark Sector, there's only 700 remaining, but the slavers are hunting them down. And ultimately, John Stewart they manage to get all the members of Matter and Elo's peoples off the planet and take them back to the Green Lantern headquarters in the Dark Sector. But the remaining lanterns some of them, one in particular, is very angry at John Stewart because she blames John Stewart for basically being, a bad quest leader, because they were on a quest to the Dark Sector and he's the quest leader, and John Stewart has failed to protect 300 of their own, having lost them. And the issue ends with a distress call from Kilowog. Kilowog, yes. Kilowog is being attacked by the slavers, and that it ends with that. So next issue, we can expect some rescue missions, and I guess some maybe more intriguing developments with Teen Lantern, because it's very interesting what Geoffrey Thorne is doing here. We got very different artistic styles between what happened on New Karagar, between Tom Rainey, Meredith Santucci, and Annie McDonald. Very different artistic styles throughout this issue, but it actually works. Because what's happening on the planet is different than what's happening in space and on New Karagar. So we got 3 different settings here, actually 4. Very well done artistically. I think it works well. Geoffrey Thorne does a good job transitioning from scene to scene. It's easy to read. It's easy to follow. You can see the stakes are slowly being built. There's still not a lot of plot progression on the destruction of Oa and what's going to happen with the Green Lantern Corps in the primary Milky Way sector, and so the Green Lantern Corps is already in crisis because they've been replaced by the United Order in the normal universe, and now that in the Dark Sector, the 1,000 of them, there's only 700 remaining. So again, Geoffrey Thorne is creating a story with a lot of stakes here, and there's a lot of moving parts. And so far, I'm in for the ride. He's done a pretty decent job. So kudos to him. Now, continuing on, my favorite of the week actually is Brian Azarello's Suicide Squad Get Joker, man. This surprised me. This really surprised me. I absolutely loved this. I thought this was a real pleasant surprise. I got to tell you guys, I think it was Bleeding Cool leaked a few pages of this a while back, and it actually showed a scene with the character Wild Dog making what some people complained was, a political commentary, because Wild Dog, his character in this story is taken completely out of context in the preview and the advertisement for it on Bleeding Cool, where basically Wild Dog claims to be he led the insurrection, and he doesn't say what insurrection, but because of our current politics, one could assume it was the insurrection on January 6th. And in actual fact, when you read the story, it's really not that big a deal. Wild Dog is just somebody who is anti-government. He doesn't like being. He's one of those free persons. He believes in, he believes in a lot of conspiracy stuff, and he doesn't like being regulated by the government or told what to do by the government. It's not quite as. It is perfectly in keeping with Wild Dog's character. Brian Azarello does a fantastic job with Wild Dog. He's one of the most interesting characters in this story. He's actually very good. This is an excellent comic. And this is actually a comic about Jason Todd. I can't believe how interesting this is. Because this entire issue. This issue is a glorified Jason Todd story. This issue starts off with Jason Todd in jail. He's in jail and he's reminiscing about how he got there. And he talks about how he's the second Robin, the bad one. And how he reminisces about the fact that he's in jail, so he's got a lot of time to think on his hands. And Jason Todd's killed a lot of people. Now, this is clearly a tale that's out of continuity. At least it's fair to assume that. It's out of continuity. And Jason Todd has in the universe that this story takes place in, he's killed a lot of people, obviously. And because he's killed a lot of people, he gets the attention, naturally, of Jason's favorite character, Amanda Waller. And I got to tell you, man, this is where this story really starts to get interesting, because the character work here that Brian Azarello does for Jason Todd as he's thinking about his life, and he's sitting there in prison cell, and Brian Azarello is making it very clear what type of person Jason Todd is. Jason Todd is a killer. Jason Todd was also killed himself by the Joker. And as he said, he died. And it's a nice way of saying that I was murdered. Alex Maleev on the art. This is some of Alex Maleev. I got a better appreciation of his art here than in the pages of Checkmate. Brian Bendis has done a terrible job testing Alex Maleev's skills in Checkmate, because nothing ever happens in Checkmate, and it's boring as hell. Brian Azarello knows how to work with Alex Maleev much better, because he tests and he pushes Alex Maleev to be a better artist. And Matt Hollingsworth on the coloring, fantastic job. Jared Flesher, letterer, fantastic job. The art here really is good. We get the background here of Jason Todd. And I got to tell you, for people, now, probably the first 5 or 6 pages are all giving you the background on Jason Todd, and he's talking about himself and his history. But it really sets things up. This is cinematic. This has a cinematic feel to it. Jason Todd here, he's in prison. And he's attacked routinely, but he's got no problem being attacked. He's Jason Todd. He's been trained by Batman. He can handle his own. And ultimately, he ends up meeting with Amanda Waller. And Amanda Waller basically says, Amanda Waller wants to hire him to kill the Joker. That's the job. Kill the Joker. And Amanda Waller seems to know a lot about Jason Todd. In fact, she even joked to him that she knew what she knew what color his shit was. I mean, basically she knows the contours of the toilet bowl that he takes a dump in. I mean, she knows everything about him. And she tells him, look, Task Force X, Suicide Squad. Our job is we're going to take out the Joker. Killing the man that killed you. That's what she's saying. That's the offer. And let's face it, it's an offer that Jason Todd, he can't refuse that. At first he kind of talk smart, but the fact of the matter is, I mean, she knows. She says, I know if you look in the bowl after you take a shit. He takes her up on the offer, and what's great here is a lot of this is predictable in that it shows Jason Todd getting suited up, meeting the rest of the Suicide Squad team. A lot of this is sort of by the numbers. It might seem a little bit tropey, but it plays out so smoothly. The scene transitions are flawless. Brian Azarello scripts it perfectly. The dialogue is absolutely spot on. There's a great 2-page spread here that for those watching on YouTube here, you're only seeing the middle of the page, the middle third of it. For those listening on the podcast, this 2-page spread is fantastic because it has Jason Todd being spoken to by Amanda Waller as she describes who all her new Suicide Squad Task Force X teammates are. They consist of Firefly, the Silver Banshee, Pebbles, who is a military strong guy, Meow Meow, who is, that's her name. She's a necrotic. She's from Tokyo. She can kill the cells of anything she touches. Plastique is a terrorist that can, anything she touches explodes. Wild Dog, who is sort of like an anti-government terrorist. And there's a young Yonder Man, who is a teleporter. And of course, there's Harley Quinn. And there's a great sequence here. I mean, Harley Quinn talks at length to Jason Todd, trying to, psychoanalyze him. And again, the dialogue here is just so good. And, you just want to keep, reading this because the job here is to kill the Joker. And that's what's so fascinating about this. But they got to locate the Joker. And they end up being dropped off at a place in Gotham where there's a contact in Gotham that will tell them where they can find the Joker. And and the individual that they're being dropped off ends up being the Toy Man. Now, right away, there's dissension in this eclectic group of Suicide Squatters because Wild Dog and Silver Banshee, they hate the fact that Jason Todd, who they consider to be a rookie, that he's going to be leading the team. That pisses them off already. Jason Todd seems caught off guard. Jason Todd apparently didn't know about the bomb in the head thing when he got injected. He says, what the hell was that? And that's why the rest of this team knows that Jason Todd is obviously a rookie. What do you mean? You don't know about the bombs in the head? That's kind of an in thing with the Suicide Squad. But in any event, they're going to go and they got to track down. They end up tracking down the Toy Man. Now, where this really works is, where this opening issue works so well is they're in the helicopter and the conversation in the helicopter is so great. The way the banter back and forth between everyone in the copter is just spot on. Entertaining as hell. And in fact, one of the best sequences is when they're talking to Wild Dog and they're shaking their head with Wild Dog. Wild Dog is just that crazy. Wild Dog is just, Wild Dog thinks that he's oppressed. And, what the F happened to freedom in this country, Kimosabi? Are you serious? And Wild Dog says, like a heart attack with a broken leg. And, what does that even mean, dude? I mean, you got other characters you get a sense that Wild Dog is off his rocker, and that's intentional. And it works. This really works. And, I love the dialogue. They're in the copter. They're approaching the drop zone. They dump down. They get there. They get shot at. They get beat up. They get attacked. They end up meeting Toy Man. And Toy Man, Toy Man seems to know exactly what's going on. He knows where he recognizes Red Hood. He knows what the mission is for. And he seems surprised that they seem so unprepared, and they end up getting attacked by Russians. Now, this doesn't seem to surprise the Toy Man, but it surprises the hell out of Red Hood and the rest of the squad because they didn't know that the Russians were involved. And, and that apparently the Joker has recruited the Russians. So, it looks like Jace might be coming back in here. So let me see if I can get him back in. Are you there, buddy?
Hey, I'm back.
You're back? Well, that's good.
I'm back. I'm still alive, still driving. I got about an hour and a half to go.
Well, I just started talking about the Suicide Squad. Get Joker. It's the last comic book that I'll be. I guess that we're reviewing today.
Yeah, fire it back up and tell everybody I'm back.
Yeah. Well, I have. I'm actually. I let you in live, my friend. Yeah, it's all good.
Fantastic. Even better. What's up, everybody?
Yeah.
Hope you're all enjoying the Rocky solo show tonight. Again, apologies. We'll be back to normal next week, but big shout out to Rock for keeping the home fires burning. And finish up, and then I want to talk a little bit about Justice League Infinity.
Certainly. Just to backtrack a little bit, Jace, Suicide Squad, Get Joker. It's exactly what the title says. The mission is to kill the Joker, and it's a fantastic.
Is this the one that Brian Azarello's writing?
Yes, Brian Azarello's writing this, and it's just fantastic. Alex Maleev on the art. Alex Maleev is this is some of his best art yet. The action sequences are really good. He does a really good job. The dialogue is crisp, is great. There was a lot of, I was mentioning earlier, there was a lot of slack about Wild Dog being too realpolitik, reminding people of, he's claiming he led the insurrection, suggesting he led the insurrection on January 6th. That January 6th is not mentioned in this comic. Wild Dog comes across like a perfectly great, crazy terrorist, which is what he's supposed to come across as. Harley Quinn is spot on. There's Firefly, Silver Banshee, a character called Meow Meow, who's a necrotic who can kill the cells off people. Plastique causes explosions. Yonder Man, they got a teleporter. We know how much Amanda Waller loves teleporters. And of course, we got Harley Quinn. I absolutely love this. I wish this was, I would love to see this as a cartoon or even a real life just action flick. It's fantastic. They end up confronting. To track down the Joker. Toy Man is somebody that knows where the Joker is. Toy Man's located in Gotham City. They locate the Toy Man, and they end up getting attacked by Russians. Jason Todd is pissed off. He figures that it's all been a trap. Amanda Waller says, "This isn't a trap. What are you talking about? I'm not working with, Joker's not, I didn't know he was working with Russians." Jason Todd says, "Look, Amanda, I know a trap. I have enough experience to know what a trap feels like." And I got to tell you, man, when they confront who they think the Joker is in this bar, and it ends up not being the Joker, and the whole bar turns on him, it's a perfectly orchestrated trap for the Suicide Squad, and the action and the gun scene, the fight scene, absolutely incredible. So much fun, great dialogue, sarcasm. Everyone's being a smartass. Not a lot of deaths. No Suicide members dies in this issue, but really great issues. This Meow Meow character, this necrotic, is absolutely. She's one disgusting Suicide Squad member, I'll tell you that. She does some pretty gory things. Silver Banshee obviously kills quite a few. Wild Dog goes to town. This was a lot. This was a lot of fun. The teleporter Yonder Man, he gets them all to safety. They escape. They try to escape with Toy Man, and they discover that they were set up by the Russians, as I said. And Jason Todd is explaining this to Amanda Waller, and Amanda Waller sort of saying, is playing dumb. I don't know what you're talking about. Jason Todd, this is a trap. Meanwhile, as Amanda Waller is talking to Jason Todd from her own private residence, her residence is broken into by the Joker, and this is going to make you so happy, Chase. You're going to be so happy. He kills Amanda Waller. He knocks it.
Yeah. So you know what? I was not planning on buying this at all. I'm not a fan of Alex Maleev at all. Azarello, I can take him or leave him. Some stuff I like, some stuff I don't. But if the Joker's killing Amanda Waller, I'm in.
Yeah, and you'll like this.
I might even reach out to Alex Maleev and ask about that original page. Well, I'm dead serious. If I could own the page where Amanda Waller dies, yes.
Well, on the page in question that I'm showing, for those listening to not watching this on YouTube, I'll describe the scene. The Joker is smashes the head of Amanda Waller, and she looks absolutely dead. And below it shows Jason Todd hearing the Joker's laugh as he's staring at his phone, and the Joker says, "Guess who?" And no Garuvitan me, little brother. He's basically telling Jason Todd, don't spoil the moment, and it suddenly dawns on Jason Todd how horrifying this moment is, because Harley Quinn asks Jason Todd what happened, and Wild Dog says, "What happened? Look at his face. She chewed your ass out. Amanda chewed your ass out, didn't she?" And all Jason Todd says is, "Joker has the box." And Wild Dog says, "What box?" And then it's like, oh God. And just to prove he has the box, the Joker pushes the button and ends up killing Firefly. And it's incredible, and and so now the Joker controls the Suicide Squad, and I am so looking forward to the next issue as the Suicide Squad. Wild Dog says it best. He says, "We are so fucked."
Yeah. I mean, that is so good. The idea of the Joker having the box in hand, like, forget about. I mean, I shouldn't celebrate anybody's death, including a fictional character. But we all know how I feel about Amanda Waller. I just want her to go away. It's not that I want her dead. I think she's a terribly written character, and I don't think there's any redeeming her because she's been terribly written for too long. So I think you just need to kind of let her retire and bring up somebody else that's a better, more well-rounded, and not so steeped in the tropes of angry, overweight black women, although she's not as overweight anymore ever since Angela Bassett played her in the Green Lantern movie with Ryan Reynolds. They've slimmed her down. But that being said, like, forget about Amanda Waller being taken off the stage. Just the idea of a story where the Joker controls the Suicide Squad, that's a great hook. That's a great way to get people interested. But maybe I missed it when you started out talking about the story. What is the impetus of like, why did Amanda want to go after the Joker in the first place? Is she trying to recruit him to the squad, or
they never frankly that was never made absolutely clear. That was never really clear. It was just to take the Joker out. That was never really made clear. But that was obviously why it got Jason Todd's attention. But I would have to go, but no, that didn't really seem very clear to me. It just seemed like it might have been, I think, maybe she wanted to recruit the Joker and not kill him, but she told Jason Todd it was, we're going to kill the man who killed you.
Yeah, I feel like, and that's a great hook as well, because, we've talked about how Jason hasn't really gotten a real good emotional story, despite the fact that I think what Scott Lobdell did with him was interesting, but it wasn't it wasn't deep enough, in my opinion, to really let us know who Red Hood is. It was kind of the surface. He's still angry. He's still dealing with the trauma. But how about some actual character growth? I mean, Lobdell wrote him ever since the New 52 started in 2011 until just a couple of years ago. Like 6-7 years of writing a character, and there's not, and it's exploring that trauma and how it's affected him, but there's no growth. There's no, has the trauma evolved? Has he managed to deal with it in more healthy ways, or managed to even get over it in some way? There's been none of that. So there's plenty of meat on that bone, for sure. But the other thing that I'll say, with, of course, everybody reminders that I haven't read any of this, so take it with a grain of salt. But it would not surprise me. I mean, Azarello's, he's not the sort of writer to pull a Bendis and just say, oh, they're going after the Joker just for the sake of going after the Joker. If they're going after the Joker, I guarantee that Azarello at some point is going to touch on that in the series. He maybe just didn't want, maybe it's tied into some conspiracy. Maybe, there's more to it. So now it's going to be, if Amanda Waller truly is gone, now it becomes, okay, the Joker's controlling the Suicide Squad, and the Suicide Squad, without getting their heads blown off, has to find a way to investigate, go into Amanda Waller's private information, the secrets that she kept, break in basically, because all that stuff's going to be locked down, and find out why did she want us to go after the Joker in the first place? Is there something there we can use to get ourselves out from under the thumb of the Joker? It brings kind of a mystery aspect to it, almost a Mission Impossible type.
Exactly. And how do you get the Joker when he's got the button?
Yeah, exactly. You got to do it on the down low. So that's all fascinating. I do have to say, I'm not a big fan of Alex Maleev art. I'm interested to take a look at this, though, because you talk about it being the best artwork you've ever seen him do. His art, he typically paints in like watercolor. I'm just not a fan. I mean, I'm sure it's all digital watercolor, so it is a little darker and the lines are a little sharper than, just regular watercolor. But I'm just not a fan. It's not a clean style. So, despite that, I am curious to read this. I mean, you tell me this contains the death of Amanda Waller. This is at the top of the stack. I literally have not had time to read a single DC book this week. I'll be reading this first.
I think you'll enjoy it. I mean, he gives Amanda Waller more than a few whacks, and there's at least one whack. There's at least 9 word balloons with whack on them. So he hits her 9 times with that wooden, with not a crow. It looks like a crowbar. I think it's a metal bar. So if she's as dead as Jason Todd was, but so maybe she'll come back. Who knows?
I wonder if it's the same crowbar.
It could be. Well, it's not. It doesn't have a curve on it. It doesn't look like a crowbar. It's kind of weird. It just
Is it like a fireplace poker?
It could. I don't know. It just. I'm trying to. It sort of looks like his own. It just looks like his own walking stick with maybe a Joker face on the end of it, I think.
Gotcha.
I'm just sort of guessing. And, yeah. So I don't know. But the Joker looks different as well. This is a different looking Joker. For those listening to the podcast, he's wearing suspenders and his white pants, white top, purple shirt under the suspenders. And his green hair is almost in like a crew cut. So he's not, you can tell this is not the mainstream DC Universe Joker. This is clearly an out of continuity tale. And I'm glad because, hey, anybody can die in this issue or in this series. And I think it's all the better for it.
I really sort of wish that this was Lee Bermejo art. Obviously Azarello and Bermejo, classic team. But on the other hand, if I had to make a case against it being Lee, his panels do tend to be bigger and more cinematic and gorgeous. And maybe if this is going to be a Mission Impossible type, you might need an artist who can give you.
I think this is Alex Maleev's best art in a long time. This is he's really good here. The scene where Jason Todd is staring at his phone and he realizes that Joker has the box. That is beautifully illustrated. Absolutely beautiful. You can feel the terror. You can see it dawn on Jason Todd. Oh, we are fucked. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, that's funny. That's really funny.
Yeah. But
all right.
Yeah, no, it's a great issue. Great issue. So you said you wanted to talk about you had some comments about Justice League?
Yeah, the Justice League Infinity. So I know we didn't cover issue 1, but you did a an individual solo spotlight on your channel for Justice League Infinity #1 because you were a huge fan of the Justice League Unlimited TV series, correct?
Well, yeah, I'm a big fan of Justice League Infinity. Yes, I am. I don't actually have. Sorry, here I'm. Yeah, I am. Why you want to talk about Justice League Infinity?
Well, no, I was just wondering if you were going to do another, like if you were going to cover that solo Justice League Infinity and do a spotlight on your channel like you did for Justice League Infinity #1.
Well, I might. I actually haven't put that out yet. I was gonna wait until Justice League Infinity 1 and 2, and maybe the first arc finishes, and I was gonna do it all at once.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, but as it stands now, there are three other comics that I didn't think we were going to review this week, and that was American Vampire 1976, issue 10, The Conjuring the Lover, issue 3 of 5, and the final issue of The Dreaming Waking Hours. So those are coming out this week, and so those are probably all worth checking out, especially fans of Scott Snyder, American Vampire. I'm behind reading those issues, but I've been following that for years, so I'm anxious to see how it all wraps up because he's wrapping up the full mythology. So
yeah, and along with those three, the Justice League Infinity #2 we mentioned. I have only ever read the first arc of American Vampire. I always meant to get to it, and I was really trying to get to it this last month because I knew this. As Rocky said, I knew the issue coming out this week on August 3rd was not just the series finale, but or not just the last of the arc, but the series finale. Like, that ends the property, at least for now. And I would think for a long time. I mean, never say never. Scott owns the property. He could bring it back at some point at DC under Black Label. But as we all heard about the announcement for Best Jacket Press and all the series he has coming out this year, 8 series, there's more in the works. He's working again with Raphael Albuquerque on a whole new project. And so I sort of feel like if Scott says he's done with American Vampire and doesn't have any stories to tell, there's not really a reason. And if you come up with another idea, why not do it under your Best Jacket Press imprint and start it as a new property? That way you have 100% ownership of it. Yeah. Right? So I really do think this is the end for American Vampire at DC. And so, yeah, because of that, and I feel like it's a pretty important milestone, I wanted to mention it. And also I did want to read it, but again, I've only ever read the first arc. So I had like 80 issues of American Vampire to read in a month, which is a lot, even if I wasn't super busy with this auction and day job stuff. And so, yeah, it just didn't happen. And I'm really honestly disappointed because I wanted to read it and give it the review and the send off that it deserves. So I'll probably just have to at some point do a spotlight on it. Maybe issue by issue or maybe arc by arc to give it what it deserves and sooner than later. So hopefully somehow I'm going to invent a time machine and I'll be able to maybe just pause time and have a chance to read it, because I really would like to get that out this month rather, before people kind of start to forget about it. But anyway, there will be an episode coming out this week, hopefully on Wednesday. If not Wednesday, then Thursday, about Terrificon. And again, I want to throw my thanks and gratitude out to Mitch Halleck of Mitch Halleck's Terrificon for hosting the auction. A huge thank you to everybody that donated. I'm not going to name any of them here because I don't want to leave anybody off the list. But we had a massive amount of people that donated, including artists at the show. Obviously, one name I will mention is Scott Patterson, Luke from the Gilmore Girls, who went above and beyond. Absolutely amazing for him to get involved. And then all the comic creators that donated things as well. And also a thank you to everybody that attended the auction and those that bid and donated. We even had some people that attended the auction that didn't bid or win anything that still donated some funds to Titus's GoFundMe. So we're pulling for the little guy. There's more items to come, like I mentioned at the top of the podcast, because we didn't get to everything. So make sure you're following the Comic Source on Twitter. It's just twitter.com/the Comic Source. Check out the pinned tweet. I'll have it up. That pinned tweet will be updated tomorrow, and it'll have the details of the other auction. As far as mailing things out to the auction winners, I was hoping to start getting to that tomorrow, Tuesday, as we're recording this. Maybe today as you're listening to it, but unfortunately, having to drive home from LA and having delayed flight and nightmare travel, I lost a whole day. So hopefully by Friday, I'm really going to try to get that stuff out to y'all as soon as I can. And I'll reach out to the artists that donated the items that they need to ship directly and either get you in contact with them or get your shipping information and get it over to them, so that can all be taken care of as well. It is a priority for me to get all this stuff out, but please keep in mind that I don't have any control over the artists actually going to the mailbox and shipping it out. But I will implore them to do so quickly. And that's all I can do. Certainly if you have any problems, let me know and I'll reach out to them and kind of poke them as gently as I can to remind them to get your items shipped out to you. So I guess that's it. Rocky, you have anything else that you want to plug coming up this week?
Well, I just want I want everybody to go see the Suicide Squad on August 6th this week. It's going to be the first time I've been in a movie theater for over a year for me. It'll be my first return to a movie theater this week, so I'm really looking forward to Suicide Squad. I've heard so many great things about it. I'm looking forward to picking up I got all the Suicide Squad covers for DC Comics this month, so I'm really looking forward to that. Just to get them all, and I'm really hoping that this is DC movies are in need of some, dare I say, improvement, and I'm hoping this is the beginning of something great for DC. Fingers are crossed.
Yeah, it's a good point. I haven't been to the movies in over a year and a half either, but I don't know if Suicide Squad's the one that gets me back in there. I honestly don't think there's any movie that would get me back in there right now, to be honest with you. But I do want to see it. So I don't know. I'll have to think long and hard, because that you should see it on the IMAX screen so you can see all the action, big and bombastic and over the top. So there is an appeal to that.
Yeah, I hear you.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens. So anyway, everybody, be sure that if you're listening to this as audio only on the podcast, you head over to YouTube at some point and Rocky a like on the video. Be sure you ring that notification bell so you know when he has new content going up. And you should subscribe as well, because he puts out some really great content. On the flip side, if you're a YouTube watcher and you love what the Comic Source does, be sure you subscribe to the Comic Source RSS feed or whatever particular podcast app you use. Just do a search for the Comic Source and you'll find us. We're pretty much on every platform. And like I said, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram. That way you know when things like this cool charity auction is going on, and you can eavesdrop on our conversations with creators. So that's going to do it for this strange but fun episode.
All right.
In transit, in route to Phoenix. And thanks again to you, Rocky, for keeping the home fires burning while I was unfortunately unable to join as usual.
It's all good, brother. It's okay.
All
Catch you
right,
guys
everybody.
later.
Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you next time.